Okay, my first act of office when I get elected is going to be increasing the budget for ERJ's camera program because listen, there's no possible way that I go from like this to this within a matter of 2 hours. Okay, dirty, wrong, and awful. Anyways, I'm back. I'd like to start out with just like a little bit of education. A private police report is something that only I have access to and the officers and the department. That is not public information. Okay. What's public is what I allegedly did, the charges, mugshot, etc. You have to be privy to information to be able to get what that alleged CS is. Right now, it just says possession of a CS. It doesn't actually state what the CS is. It's very interesting how, boom, go to the hearing, get arrested. And the next day, Judge Redding's own son posts what the alleged CS is. Can somebody explain that to me? Which is kind of like what the entire investigation around Redding is about, right? Privy to information. And also it's defamation. And really also super crazy that you as Judge Redding's son, why would you post something like that about someone who like reports, the news? That's crazy and sloppy. By the way, this is Judge Redding's son. This is Taylor Staub's brother. And it's very interesting how out of all of us, I'm the only one that's been in handcuffs, even though Taylor Staub's was caught making pornography inside of her office at Washington High School. However, I don't have a judge for a stepdad. I don't have a judicial family. What I do have is my voice, that I'm very outspoken. And as you guys know, I fight for the people. I'm a public voice. And the timing of yesterday was very interesting. I've dealt with a lot since I started this journey, and it's been a while since I've had, like police contact or something like that. I have had any type of real legal pushback for being outspoken. And I'm not going to go out and just overtly say that that's what happened, but I will say that, all this time, I didn't get arrested until just yesterday, right after the hearing. So what happened was I'm driving on Route 9. It's like, beginning of rush hour traffic. I'm in a grouping of about 20 vehicles and going towards Charlestown. So as soon as I get to the line, there is, I believe, like a sheriff's deputy or a deputy reserve and a sheriff from the sheriff's department in Jefferson County, both sitting on the side of the road. They're there with their brake lights on, so I could tell that they are in drive. And I'm in the fast lane keeping up with traffic about 65, 70 miles per hour. And it's probably a group of 20 cars. So we're all stacked on top of each other. They're right beside the slow lane, right? So all of a sudden, the reserve officer comes, kind of gets through the grouping, goes up past me. I see the other officer pull out. He comes and wedges himself directly in between me and the car behind me, to the point where the car behind me had to pump their brakes. They pull me over immediately, right? They pull me over because they said that my registration was dead. So if you know me, you know that we lost our business. You know that I lost my car, my house, and I had to dissolve the entire business on my own. And money has been tight. I've been relentlessly working as an advocate because this is a much needed role, and I know it's making a difference. However, I'm driving my beater car right now, and I'm not bringing an income in. So I'm not making excuses for myself, but I'm just saying I had an unpaid ticket, and I thought that I was still within the amount of time, but I guess I wasn't. So they suspended my license. It's going to be taken care of on Tuesday, right after the holiday. So not a super huge deal, but he came up to the window and told me that that's what he was pulling me over for. Which I'm like, how did he know that fast? Like wedging it behind me, but that's neither here nor there. And immediately he's asking me why I'm so nervous. I dropped my license, in between the seat, but I didn't want to reach around because, they don't like when you reach around, right? And I'm like, my license is here. I just dropped it. I told him right off the bat in a very cordial way. I was like, hey, just letting you know, I don't have insurance currently. I'm in between vehicles. My other one got repossessed. I was like kind of just going through a tough time, and I apologize for that. But I was very forthcoming about that. So at this point, I give him my license number, and he goes back to his vehicle, comes back, says that I'm suspended, and which not revoked. I don't know why it says revoked online, but it says I'm suspended. And he told me I need to make a phone call because the car was going to get towed. Okay, no big deal. In the meanwhile, he's very nervous. And I'm like, well, I was trying to find my ID for you. You've got the windows down. I'm freezing to death. I was like, I'm not nervous. He's like, is there anything in the car that's illegal? And I said, no. I repeatedly said no. And he was insistent on asking me and where I'm coming from, what I've been doing, the usual. I was very respectful. I was very cordial with the officer, and he asked to search my vehicle. And I said, okay. I could have done the whole, like, I assert my fifth, I don't answer questions, but I wasn't worried about what was in my car. And I was kind of hoping that it would go faster than calling drug dogs and, all of that stuff. I didn't want to deal with that. So I was like, yeah, no problem. And that was a mistake. But as soon as I got out of the car and put in handcuffs immediately, another officer is back there who's quizzing me on like where I've been, where am I coming from? What do I do for work? Why do you have camera equipment in your car? Blah, 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 blah. And it was very interesting. So at this point, the officer is like, you lied to me, the one that's searching my car. He's like, you lied to me. I found this, that, and the third. He's like scraping dust off the ground. He's like looking at like money. And, he's basically saying that there's some alleged substance on there. And I was like, what is the substance that you found? Because there isn't one in there. I don't want to go like too hardcore about the way I was treated because I will have court coming up and I did have a really great arraigning magistrate and I don't want to irritate the future proceedings. However, you see that? Those handcuffs were so tight. You might not be able to see it on this one, but like my skin was like broken here and they were pretty to me, grilling me about what I do for work. And they ended up arresting me. They didn't Mirandarize me. I asked them repeatedly to test whatever substance that they found. I said, can you field test it? Can you let me know? Let me know what the weight of this alleged substance is that I'm in possession of. None of that occurred. And I was taken to the precinct. I also have never been so like intimidated in my life to give over something on my person that I did not have. They basically were threatening felonies, tampering with evidence because they swore I had something on me. I was searched by male officers and they swore up and down that I had something on me, which I did not. And I went to jail. I went through the whole process, body scan. There was nothing on me. Right. And all these things, at this point, I didn't even know that I was actually getting charged with like the CS. So we get to the precinct and then I go to jail. I spend the night. I get bailed out. And of course, all you lovely people saw that mugshot, whatever. But the biggest thing I want to highlight here is like in my police report, it just says like, suspected CS, suspected this. It says could not retrieve substance, suspected substance. My bail was $2,000 or $200 at 10%. And when I even spoke to my bondsman, they were like, this is extremely low for something that is allegedly this CS. And they said that the magistrate essentially probably put it that low because they didn't think it was something that was going to stick in court. But of course, at that point, I'm already in the system, there's a risk that goes along with what I do. And I didn't have anything pending and now I do. I firmly believe that this will get dropped. And considering what I talked about in the beginning of my video with Judge Redding's son, who is posting about the private police report and what was found on it, I don't think that this is going to hold up much in court. What I do is stand up for people. I am on the right side of integrity, whether or not my license was suspended. What I don't get is if you are like relishing in my arrest, which whatever. What I don't get is if you are like excited or happy or relishing in my arrest, like what side are you on here? That's my biggest question because I stand up for people. I stand up for the underdog. I am a voice for integrity and an advocate to those who need help and a voice and support. And I stand on the right side of things. And if you are cheering and relishing in my downfall, then what side are you on? Really? And this really is not a downfall. It doesn't stop me. If anything, it just tells me to keep going. I always kind of wondered if something like this would happen, because if we actually go back, I've been waiting on an arrest. When this first happened with the case that we lost back in May, not only did they arrest my fiance, we went to a parking lot of the courthouse and protested. We had permission from the sheriff. And they, the next day, went and arrested my employee that came and supported. And all we did was just sit there on live stream. There was an entire made up scenario. His child's mother came there and he essentially was threatening her life. And then the bailiffs had to get involved and tear them apart. And the next day they arrested him for that. I have the entire thing live streamed. None of that ever happened. all they had to do was make one phone call to like the security there at the courthouse to realize that did not happen. However, he still went to jail for a month over that just for supporting me. And then I find out that her connection to all of this is that her mother worked for the magistrate in the courthouse. Like, there's a lot of things that happen when you go up against a system like this and you are fighting to make these institutions trustable again and have integrity again. This is why people are scared to come forward and speak out. And it takes people standing up to a system bravely. And occasionally they get arrested. It's a part of the game. And we need to not let this intimidate us. We need to keep pushing forward. And you're going against power. You're going against well-established powerhouses that are elected into office. And in order to make a difference, sometimes you got to get your hands dirty. And at the end of the day, I know this doesn't affect my mission and my drive. And I really hope that my supporters will still support me in this mission. I'm still here. I'm still a voice for you guys. I am still strong and not easily intimidated. And I'm going to keep pushing forward. So sorry if I disappointed anybody. Yesterday was like a roller coaster of emotions, but that's the story. So thank you. Have a good night. Oh, and Judge Redding's son, I'm going to need you to take that post down because it's defamation or I will be suing you.